This is a story that I heard out of the Appalachian Mountains about a true poltergeist slash haunting, whatever you want to call it, demonic possession case. But it's probably the creepiest story that I have heard. Now, there was this husband and wife who lived with their 8-year-old son and their 10-year-old daughter. And they moved into like this old house in the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina. And they had lived there for about 4.5 months when one night the wife, she puts the 8-year-old son down to bed. Now, the 8-year-old son, he was autistic and he really didn't speak too much except for a few words. And so she puts him down to bed and she would put this baby gate in front of his door because sometimes he would go out of his room and, would wander the house and get into things he wasn't supposed to. And this baby gate would make a lot of noise when he would try and go over it, so it would at least alert the mother that he was leaving the room. So she puts the baby gate up and she goes downstairs. Well, all of a sudden, she said she heard the sound of like bells ringing. And she said it sounded, like almost like bells on a cat's collar. And it just jingle, 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 jingle. And she's like, what is that sound like? Because it sounds like a cat, but I don't have a cat. So she thought maybe like, did my son, is he getting into something he's not supposed to? So she goes upstairs and she goes into her son's bedroom. He's gone. He's not in there. So she frantically like runs into the other rooms of the house. He is nowhere in the house. So she thinks maybe like, did he somehow like manage to slip past me? Because I was right by the stairs. I would have heard him come down. But if he did he like go outside? She checks the front door and the back door. Both doors are locked. And he didn't know how to unlock the doors. So she's like, where did he go? She checks the basement, the closets, everywhere in the house. She cannot find this boy. And the next morning, she's like getting ready to phone the police when all of a sudden she hears her son like making noises upstairs in his bedroom. And she goes up there and is like, where have you been? Where did you go? Where were you? And he just, because he couldn't talk a lot, he just said, bed, bed, bed. And she's like, but you weren't in your bed. You left your bed. Where did you go? And it's bed, bed. And he, was implying that he was in his bed. So a couple weeks later, right, she puts her daughter to bed and she goes downstairs. Once again, she hears like the ringing of bells. So she's like, instantly, like, I need to get upstairs. She runs upstairs. She goes into her son's room first. He's in bed. And she's like, oh, thank God, he's in bed. So she thinks, I should check on my daughter as well. She goes into her daughter's room. Her daughter's not in bed. So she's like yelling around the house for her daughter, like looking through all the rooms. Once again, she cannot find her. The front door, the back door is locked. And like she looks for hours. And then morning comes. And first thing in the morning, she hears like boom, 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 boom. Like someone's knocking at the front door. She opens the front door. There's her daughter. And she's like, honey, oh my gosh, where did you go? Like, how did you get outside? And she's like, I don't know, mommy. Like, I don't remember anything. I was just outside. And like, I went to bed and then I woke up and next thing I know, I was like outside walking around. And her daughter, was usually not one to like tell stories or make up things. So like, she was just very confused. Like, first my son, now my daughter. So fast forward a few more weeks later, right? She's in the kitchen and she kept noticing that her dog was in the same spot. And she'd walk past the dog and then she'd go past him again and he wouldn't move. And finally she realized like, is there something wrong with him? She looks down at her dog and her dog is like frozen still. Like he's not moving at all. And she's like, come on, trying to get him to like move. She gets a treat and she's like trying to get her to come to him. So she's like, what's going on? Is he like having, some kind of like medical episode? Like what's happening? And then she said, like, all of a sudden, the dog just kind of like shook a little and then just started walking and like walks away. So the next day, she takes the dog to the vet and the vet checks him out. Says, the dog's perfectly fine. Like, there's no reason it should have done that. So about 2 weeks later after this, right, she's, in her living room and she's knitting something. And all of a sudden, she sees like her husband walk right past her and then go upstairs. And she's like, wait a second, my husband's at work. So she like runs immediately up the stairs, like going into her kids' rooms, checking all the rooms, like, and she realizes like no one is in the house. The doors are locked once again. Uh, couple weeks, like I said, after this, right? She one day goes into her living room, and she had this, at the time it was one of those big older, big screen TVs, with the big backs on it. And this TV was gone. And she's like, where in the world did this, like, where did the TV go? Like, did someone steal it? And she is like, just me, the two kids are here, my husband's at work. Like, no one could even move this TV. Like, how did the TV just go missing? And she searched the house to see if, like, somehow it's in the house. All the doors are locked, all the windows are closed. She cannot find the TV. Next morning, she gets up, goes downstairs, the TV is back where it always is. Um, the other thing she noticed that was very odd is that sometimes she would look at like those digital clocks, and she said like sometimes the clocks would go to 666, and like she would unplug the clock, plug it back in, and it would still say 666, and then like all of a sudden it would go back to normal time, which she could not figure out how it could even get to that time because the clock can only go up to 6 minutes and or 6 hours and 60 seconds. So she noticed that the clocks would always like go to 666, or she would notice sometimes that the turn clocks with the hands, right, they would always be stopped at 3 a.m. and she would like reset the clocks, get a brand new clock, and it would stop at 3 a.m. So all of this stuff kept happening, and it got to the point where she had a priest come out and do a blessing of the house. And the priest said, like, I think that something is really, really wrong with this house. You need to leave. You need to get out with your family immediately, because if you stay, something is going to happen to you. So the whole family, like, they moved out, and I guess this house still remains there, but it's like vacant, it's abandoned, and it's slowly falling apart up in the mountains. So what do you think? What do you think was causing all this? I'm curious to hear your thoughts and input.